He is the creator, the owner of ProWrestlingSheet.com, and he's our wrestling buddy here in the offices. But he was also at AEW's Double or Nothing this weekend. I think I saw your lady in the crowd.
She got.
What does that mean?
Someone offered. I had tickets in the media section.
Because I was looking for you. I'm like, where the hell is that?
Because I got credentialed, and then like the week of the show last week, someone hit me up. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, I have this extra seat. Do you want it? It's in the second row." I was like, "Yeah, definitely." But then I remember right when I said yes, I remembered that my girlfriend was coming with me, and she didn't have a ticket. She was just gonna watch from her hotel room. She wanted to party in Vegas, so she was coming there. I was like, "Well, you can take my second row seat."
She was all over that.
Yeah, she was right up in there. She had great seats.
You gave her your second row ticket?
I'm a nice boyfriend.
Good boyfriend.
What? Is she a big fan?
She likes wrestling. Yeah, she likes wrestling. She enjoyed the hell out of it.
Better.
Thank you for the applause, by the way.
Yes.
Where were you then?
I was in the media section. It wasn't bad. I'll be honest. I probably would have tried switching seats with her for like 1 or 2 matches if the ticket sucked. But
they were good.
The media section, it was perfect view of everything. I didn't have a problem with it.
They're going to want you to cover it well, so they're going to.
Well, you think, but WWE doesn't always do that. So
WWE needs to get the shit together. I'll tell you that.
How many people were there in the media section?
In the media section?
Yeah.
Probably like 20, 30.
Yeah, was it sold out?
Maybe more.
Was the event sold out?
I don't think it was fully sold out because I know someone that was able to buy tickets outside. A friend of mine, Jamie, my co-host, his friend lost his ticket en route from one spot to the next, and so when he got to the arena, didn't have his ticket and had to buy another one.
Scalped it?
No, I think he bought it just straight up from the place. So I think there were some seats available.
It was,
and there was about total, I think, like 12,000, 13,000.
Well, I was telling Ryan about. So for those of you, even like I said, even if you're not a wrestling fan, this is a big thing for entertainment in general, because back in the day, in the late '90s, WCW and WWE had this war. Now, we're not anywhere close to that yet, but WWE and WCW had a war, and it's always good when you have competition. So this is the first time I feel, and Ryan might say differently, but it's the first time that I feel that someone has stuck their head up and gone, "Come on, WWE, I think we can give you a fight." And they're getting this deal. They have some money behind them now. They're starting to get some stars, and they have a very loyal fan base. And it just seems like there's an energy in the air right now for this. So I wanted to see what was going to happen when the actual event itself happened. Riley, who are we confirming our guest right now?
Yeah, somewhat. It's producer stuff. Sorry.
If that's the case, all right.
It is a producer thing.
Right,
I apologize.
Then maybe I'll wait for you to get done. Then we'll talk about it. But because I want to get everybody's thoughts on this, because it's the event itself happened. And you could feel, like I said, it felt like a big boxing match. It felt like a big MMA fight. It didn't feel like another episode in a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way that they and so here's what I told Ryan on the way in. He's like, "Did you watch it?" It's like, yes, mostly. Because I'm so used to streaming stuff now, and for the WWE Network, right, which I have, and I turn on something streaming, and I just rewind and watch it from the beginning. I haven't bought traditional pay-per-view in forever.
It's been a long while for me, too.
A long time. So I go to DirecTV and I buy the thing, and it starts me right from Dustin and Dustin. I go to rewind it. It goes, "You can't rewind. It's live. Watch it." And I couldn't rewind it. And I'm like, this sucks. And I really realized how many matches I missed. But you told me I caught the 3 biggest ones.
Well, sometimes, though, I remember old pay-per-view, it would replay again right after. So if you bought it didn't do that? No, that sucks.
How do you get it if you don't have that?
What do you mean?
Is there a digital way you can buy it?
did.
Yeah, they have a Bleacher Report live. It's their streaming service.
And how much was it?
I think it was the same, $50.
Yeah, it was the same.
So you should have done that.
I should have done that, but I didn't know.
Did you know? I didn't know.
I didn't know. I just turned it on.
It wasn't the most promoted thing. And to go back to the first thing you said before the Dustin thing.
Yeah.
You're right. They're so far away from any for there being a Monday Night Wars again.
But they tried. They took a shot.
This is definitely the first. You're right. This is the first group that is stuck their head up and been like, hey, puffed their chest out, like, we can beat you. You know, it's been a while. I mean, the last time something like this happened was in the mid 2000s, something like that, when Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan went to TNA.
Right.
And Eric Bischoff was like, well, how do we compete with WWE? We go head to head with them. And they did that for 3 weeks and just got destroyed and tucked their tail between their legs, went back and never tried again, really. This is the first time where, it's the difference between then and now is that Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, they already are a draw. You know, Hulk Hogan was so far past his prime. The people they were bringing in were past their prime. These guys have this young cool factor.
Yes.
They have this like, hey, we're going to be hip. We're going to be cool. We're going to cuss. We're going to throw middle fingers. We're going to like be like the wrestling you used to love before Vince just tried to make it just totally water it down.
Well, that's the magic point also, is because the other thing, what that TNA reference that you said back in the day, they were going up against a WWE that was just, you couldn't beat them. The fans, the support was there, and they liked the product, the fans. The fans are starting to, even last night, Roka was telling me they were screaming AEW in the crowds at WWE.
Yep.
And that's a good sign for AEW, obviously. Yeah.
Was he there?
What's
It
it?
came
No,
across on
he
TV.
was watching on TV.
You could hear it.
You could hear it. You could hear him doing the AEW chants. And the thing,
They even mentioned AEW on TV, which they never mentioned their competition on TV.
what did they say?
Sami Zayn straight up mentioned AEW. They had a segment where it was called like the electric chair, and they were taking audience questions, and it seemed like they were taking shoot audience questions, like real questions from the crowd that weren't plants. Because they were expecting one of them to ask about AEW, but none of them did.
Okay.
And Sammy went like, these questions are awful. Like, you guys could have literally asked me anything. You could have asked me about AEW. And then went like, oh, and then everyone went, oh, you know. So, I mean, it was scripted, obviously. But, I mean, the fact that they're talking about their competition on TV after night one is their Google traffic doubled for AEW as soon as it got mentioned on WWE TV.
Why would they do that?
Afraid.
Gotten to, it feels like. It feels like, well, I have two opinions on it. Either it's a little bit gotten to, because they're taking straight shots
not
at
worried
WWE.
about it at all.
Or, like you said, they kind of want competition again. I think over the past 20 years, they've realized that, like, hey, wrestling's a lot cooler when there's two companies that are competing with each other, as opposed to just, like, one lone person at the top, you know? And I think that Vince works better with his back against the wall. And so I don't know if maybe, I don't think his back is against the wall, obviously.
Not even close yet.
Not even close. Not nowhere near the wall. But I just think that a lot of shots were thrown, and I think
and one of the big shots, and Riley, you'll enjoy this too, because even, again, not even as a wrestling fan. So Triple H is known for like sitting in this throne, and he has this throne that he kind of has done in many pay-per-views.
At WrestleMania entrances, he'll like have like this throne where he comes out looking
Game
like
of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, Mad Max.
Carrying him, or
sometimes, but sometimes just like this throne of wrestling. So Cody Rhodes came out his match against his brother, and he comes out, and there's this throne that is supposed to be the Triple H throne. And and he grabs a sledgehammer, which is Triple H's like go-to weapon, and he hits the throne and he blows it up, which looked ridiculous, by the way.
It did.
It looked very proppy. It looks like something you see in Universal Studios.
Yeah,
but it was a statement.
So much dust in it on purpose to look like it exploded.
But was the statement amazing? So it didn't matter.
That's what it was. It was the statement, and then the question is, how do you follow up with the match? And it's him and his brother and Gold Dust, who Dustin Rhodes was. They have this amazing match, and I don't know the story behind why they fought in the first place. If there was like a thing that led up to it, and that's what AEW is going to start to do, because they don't. For people who are just buying in this pay-per-view for the first time, there's just not. Like, again, for me, I just didn't have a lot of story behind it, and the first thing I see is the ridiculous guy in the mask doing the commentary, which is like you're going to turn a lot of people away from that right off the bat. He was a good commentator, but him commentating in the mask was ridiculous.
I mean, it's been done in like old school pro wrestling, you know. It's his thing. I don't know. You know, I'll be honest with you. I think he's a good announcer, but I do think it. I think it does kind of make him look a little silly, but I think that's what he wants. I think they like that.
It is, but I'm just saying, for the first time someone's tuning in, let's say, because what they have been going after, and I thought they accomplished it inside the ring itself, was going after that the belts are going to count, the matches are going to count, the rankings will count. Sports-like, and it felt that way all the way through. So if you're telling somebody that for the first time, this is different than WWE. It's not just about the spectacle and the story anymore. It's about the match itself, and then you get this guy in the mask. It looks ridiculous.
But I think the reason they put him there is for what you're saying, is that it's like, no, we don't care about this being like some pretty person who looks good on camera. This person can tell a story on the microphone over a match. And I think that's more why they have him there. And I think that's almost kind of like the message of like, hey, we're not WWE.
Right.
We've got black people all over the card. We've got transgender athletes. We've got a guy in a fucking lucha mask on commentary. So I think that like...
How are the women?
They left a little bit to be desired, the matches, I think. They had a really good surprise with a former Impact wrestler, Awesome Kong. She was also in WWE. She made a surprise appearance and was in the match. But yeah, something was a little off in the match. I don't know what it was.
Awesome Kong isn't from Glow, is she?
Yes, Awesome Kong was in Glow. She's a welfare queen.
We had her on Schmodown.
Yeah, welfare queen.
Yeah. I didn't realize that she actually showed up to AEW.
She showed up. She's going to be wrestling there, it seems.
You missed that because pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I missed it. I missed it.
did a
I
Bleacher
kept reading
Report.
Awesome Con. I'm like, it can't be. And so I'm good for her. She's awesome, by the way.
But and as far as the commentary, I haven't watched the broadcast yet. I literally am going to watch it after we do this,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to do a full review with Jen Sturger on my YouTube channel. Cool. But and that'll be up later today. But youtube.com/c/wrestling sheet. But I can't say to how well JR and Excalibur did on commentary. Were they good? Did you like them?
I thought Excalibur was really good, and JR. There's like that nostalgia thing. You can tell it's like James Earl Jones. Like he's still the voice of Vader, but he's not Vader from '77. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like it's still JR, and there was something.
It's like the voice of your childhood, but
Yes.
it's, so it's yeah.
But
It
do you
makes
think for new fans that works at all?
100%. And what else worked for me was Earl Hebner calling a match.
that was great.
Earl Hebner was a referee who is involved in many, many legendary matches. They had Bret Hart come out. Bret Hart presented the champion, which was a surprise. Nobody
Yep.
saw that coming. Did you know that was coming?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So that came up. Bret Hart just got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame again with the Hart Foundation. So that was a big surprise for him showing up. And then the biggest surprise, not to him, he knew it was going to happen to a lot of fans, was that Dean Ambrose.
No surprise to me too.
You kind of predicted it.
I just pointed
You saw
out
it
in
coming.
his he had like a hype video, and in the background, one of the final shots, he's walking by the Viper Room logo, but it's dice that said 2-5 in the Viper Room logo, and that was the date of all of Double or Nothing.
Right.
So I just noticed it, but I didn't know for sure if he was going to be there. To be honest with you, I thought he wasn't going to be there.
Really?
I thought he was trying to like throw people off, and that's why he did that.
Well, he showed up, and it's Jon Moxley now. Is that his real name?
No,
No.
it's not.
What's his real name?
I think it's like John Good or
All right,
something.
but Jon
like that.
Moxley, and I guess he couldn't take Dean Ambrose with him. It's probably the WWE's name or whatever.
Well, Jon Moxley was his name before he was in WWE
And they made
for a
him
long
change it.
time, and then
Okay.
they changed it to Dean Ambrose.
okay, so Jon Moxley, who was Dean
I
Ambrose.
like the way Dean Ambrose sounds better than Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Well, either way, and that character is Jeff Snyder, by the way, in the Schmoedown. Hands down. But John,
Perfect.
Yeah. So Jon Moxley comes out. He rushes out at the end of the match between Jericho and Kenny Omega, which I was surprised. It's the spoilers if you haven't watched it. Jericho takes the match over Omega, which is Omega's like this massive, huge start. And I thought about it. I was like, does this hurt Omega losing? It's like it doesn't, because they're not going to put him in this feud with Moxley. He's going to be in a huge feud with him, and Jericho will go and fight for the title, right? And
Yep,
they're gonna,
Hangman.
and he's going to put
gonna
Hangman
put Hangman
over,
over.
and Hangman will win the belt.
It's my guess.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
So there's going to be no crossover between the two. You cannot wrestle for both.
No,
No,
definitely not.
No, but you're going to see a lot of people start, like, if this thing starts
Jump
to pick
ship.
up. Yeah, because now they have this next pay-per-view, which actually happens the same day we're doing our New York event. August 31st is their next big pay-per-view, right?
Yep.
And then they're
No, well, Fight for the Fallen is their next. I don't know if that's on pay per view.
I think-
Fight for the Fallen is their next event. It's I want to say July.
July, but
Also
August
in
31st.
June
Vegas?
maybe. No, that one's in Florida. It's a little bit smaller of an event, and then the one after that is August 31st, all out.
Because the television deal starts in November.
October.
So that's when it's going to heat up. They're going to build up on these
And that's
pay-per-views.
TNT?
That's TNT. That's when it's going to really start. And I think around the same time is when WWE goes to Fox.
Yes.
Okay, so
exact same time.
So you're going to see head-to-head. That's when the fight starts.
Yes.
And the fight's going to start big at that point. That's why they're building up. Because what they've done intelligently, I thought, so far, is that by getting – everybody's talking about it. Shit, we're spending half an hour just talking about that pay-per-view for that show, and the word is out there. I mean, even as a non-fan, you heard about AEW in the Twitterverse this week.
Yeah, I sure did.
It was going out. It's all over there. And that
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how people asked me about it when I walked. Like when you asked me about it, I know I had mentioned it here in the
Yeah.
past, but the fact that it was on people's radar
That it's-
kind of
yeah.
surprised me. Yeah.
people want something new and something fresh because and I'm a WWE diehard for a long time. The product is terrible right now. It's just terrible. The writing is so bad. It is so bad. The wrestlers are great. The talent that they have, it's not the talent. Sometimes when you go back to like early '90s and they only had like Bret Hart and a couple other people, and then Tatanka was like the second biggest star, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No.
Christian,
They're-
if they asked you to come write for them today, would you go?
No, I wouldn't want. I had too bad of an experience. AEW, I'd consider. I would
Really?
yeah, I'd consider AEW over WWE. If
I don't think AEW has a writing
That's
team.
what, and that's
Yeah.
probably another reasons too, as far as booking and stuff too. Like they let the wrestlers kind of do their
That's
thing,
kind of what they're trying to do right now. Like the booking team is Cody, the Bucks, and Tony.
and I love that. And I think that's one of the things like when I was there, it started to transition out of this. One of the things that they do now is they give WWE, they give the wrestlers monologues, and they want them to they want them to be actors, like from start to finish. Hit this, hit this, hit this, and they can't go off and do their own thing. can you imagine telling Dusty Rhodes and Michael P.S. Hayes and all those guys back in the day,
go say this,
and don't cut your own stuff?
They literally throw the paper in your face.
And boring.
Yeah.
And boring.
I used to work for a small wrestling company, and even then I hated telling them what to say. Like, hey, here's the piece of paper. It made me feel so stupid because it was like these guys should be flexing that muscle on their own. So here's words if you need them, but I loved when they went on their own and did it.
Why is it closer to improv than scripted? Why would you rather?
Because there's emotion behind it, it's like and I think that people
it's bullet points.
But the wrestlers that people remember, the Hulk Hogan's, the Ric Flairs, the stuff you go like those, the Macho Mans, nobody was writing that stuff for them. And so that's why people look at them as legends of the industry, because they were able to kind of work on their own and do it on their own.
But you gave them bullet points. They always had bullet points. Like Vince would say to them, like, okay, Hulk or
it would be like, this is where we need to go.
Yes.
This is where we're going. Get us there.
And that was still there a little bit when I was there, for sure. It's like, okay, look, the main points that we got to get, and hit it quick, it's same type of thing. Like, I'll trust Andrew Guy. I'll trust Roca. If I'm going to say, okay, I need you to hit this in 3 minutes, and I need you to hit this, this, and this, go. Like, there's other people in Schmodown that I'll have that I'll have to really like. Sometimes,
I tried, guys.
Sometimes I say do this, and they'll go for like 7 minutes and just go and go and go, and it's like,
Tom
oh my
Dagnino.
God, no. But anyway, but you got to make sure you also got to know who to trust and what to do and what points, and that's on you as a storyteller.
I also think it's similar to like if Christian came in here and was like, here's what I need you to say on Collider Live every day, you wouldn't come across. It'd be like Christian through you.
Right.
So sometimes these characters don't get across, these larger than life personalities, because it's some dork who typed this thing out for them, telling them what to say.
They're handcuffed. But AEW, the wrestling was fantastic. The Young Bucks, the only thing with the Young Bucks match for me when it was happening was I thought there was too many moments that were like looked like finishers that everybody was kicking out of. And I'm like, as I'm watching, I'm like, well, it just kind of takes away from, if they ever hit a finisher on anybody, and anybody can kick out, it takes away from the finisher itself. But it was a moot point, or it was a very small point.
And that is the indie style these days. I mean, I think I think the fact that you saw the final 3 was perfect, because they did do a good job of like showing they have something for everyone. They had the old school match in Cody and Dustin for Dusty Rhodes. They had the young indie style match with the Young Bucks and Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, and then they had like a typical main event match that you would see that maybe is the same, similar to what you'd see in WWE, but just less gaga and more just like
it was
the
more.
match.
It was intense, and it seemed like anything could happen, and they weren't holding back, and there were no. They weren't concerned, like you said, middle fingers, language, like those types of things. Is a little bit more raw for sure. It is more the adult version than it is like the PG version that WWE has gone to, and that's a different conversation altogether. I think sometimes you need that type of brand because you want it for kids, but the AEW doesn't necessarily want to do that. The other thing I really liked about this, and I got to tell you, is back in the day when you watched Ted DiBiase and these guys, these guys that just weren't in. They were in shape, but they were in like these cut wrestling bodies.
They looked like men.
Dude, these guys in AEW, like even Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes and the Young Bucks, they're not in like ripped cut shit. Kenny Omega's pretty cut, but the rest of these guys, even Jericho now at almost 50 years old, they're not. They
look more like regular
people. They look like dudes, like running around. But they certainly their endurance is out of control. But I liked that. It reminded me of the old school days, but it was the way that they treated the matches. The matches were far superior than anything that I've seen in WWE in a long time. And I think WWE is going to have to look over their shoulder if they continue to put on shows this way, and depending on how that product comes out in October.
Yeah, no, me too. I actually, if you are one of the people who watch Double or Nothing, I recommend you go check out our YouTube channel. I was in the press room after the show, and it was cool hearing Dustin Rhodes and Tony Khan and Dean Malenko and Hangman kind of talk about the show, what they thought about it and plans for the future. But specifically Tony Khan, he's the president of the company, and to see that he's like an enthusiastic wrestling fan who seems to have a great idea of what wrestling can be again. It's very encouraging.
Yeah, because that was
the energy like in the room for the people that were there in your position, media position. What was the conversation amongst you guys?
In the media room or during the show?
Both.
Well, during the show, to be honest, it was very positive. I think that everyone was. It was one of those shows where people were looking for reasons to hate it. They were ready to pounce and nitpick and do all these things. And for the most part, everyone there was happy. It was one of the themes of the show, really, in my opinion, was fan service. Like, it was very much like Endgame, where they gave you the things you wanted to see because you had spent all this time with all these characters, and they didn't just try and like swerve you for the sake of swerving you. And so this was really like a, hey, you wanted to see these guys wrestle for a long time, not dumb storylines or this and that, like
predictable stuff, cliched bullshit.
This is gonna be a cool thing that's gonna get you excited.
Clean finishes.
Yeah, and so I do think the media section was very positive, and same for after the fact in the media room. I think that everyone, it was a very positive energy. I mean, Dee Malenko, who's a producer and senior coach there now,
that one I told you about before.
Yeah.
He quit WWE to come here, to go to AEW. Jon Moxley, for also kind of like, was offered probably like a lot of money. Like, he turned down millions of dollars to go to AEW just so he can like be himself. And so I think like that kind of stuff is infectious.
You think AEW is paying him infinitely less than WWE was
I wouldn't
offering?
say infinitely less, but I think that
probably give him a stake in the company too, right?
I wouldn't say a stake in the company,
No?
but I think they're paying him well. I think that it just depends. In WWE, you make so much with merch, and he was a merch pusher. Like, he was someone who made a lot of money in merch. So I don't know what he was making, but I know they offered him a lot of money to stay.
What do you think realistically? What do you think he's losing realistically?
I maybe a couple $100,000.
Yeah, and the thing is too, if he gets this thing to the top, you can see the thought process. It's I'll take that hit right now, but if I'm the guy, and if I start main event, and I'm going to be fighting against Kenny Omega, they're going to put each other over for a while, and then you got to give him the strap eventually, Moxley, right? So then he did something good. He got himself in shape because he wasn't in shape for a long time.
The whole time they were paying him too, because he was doing it while he was injured.
Right. So anyway, the point is, and he won't be the last WWE star to come over.
No.
Before we go here, who's the next WWE star you think is going to come over, and then give me your best and worst match of the night?
Luke Harper will be the next one to come over. I was rereading Cody's statement when he left WWE, and Luke Harper is one of the people he specifically thanked in the thing and told him to kind of like keep your eye on the locker room type stuff. So Luke Harper has already asked for his release. Apparently, they've reportedly tacked on extra time to his contract because of injury time that he was out.
So they know he's going to go.
So they know he's going to go. So that's my guess, Luke Harper. And best match of the night was definitely Dustin versus Cody. I think that...
Good emotional tag, too.
It was old school wrestling. There was blood. There was emotion because of Dusty. There was the post-match thing where they kind of recreated an old promo that Dusty did with Dustin. And this time it was Cody doing it with Dustin. And they hugged. And they're going to be tag team again. So it was very emotional. So I would definitely say Cody versus Dustin, match of the night for me. Luke
Any
Harper.
of the women coming over?
Sasha?
I mean, I'm sure they'd like Sasha Banks to come over. I don't know. That's one where I do feel like they need one or two big stars in the women's division to kind of help fill it out. I think that was one of the areas it was most lacking, Double or Nothing. As much as the women's match was good, it was cool to see Awesome Kong back. As far as women, I mean, Sasha Banks would be the most likely.
Yeah.
But
who knows?
Who knows with her?
All right. Well, Ryan Satin, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out Pro Wrestling Sheet. You can find him on Twitter, as well as Pro Wrestling Sheet on Twitter, and to check out the YouTube. And we are going to be right back.